Good morning. I have a bunch of eggs to process here. I kind of flaked out and didn't collect the eggs for over a week, and I'm going to process these and save the yolks for tanning hides. So I thought that'd be a good opportunity to talk about fat liquoring in tanning. And I also just got a comment, or a question rather, by email from a blog reader about fat liquoring. So yeah, seems like good timing. So what I have here, I'm just going to work while I talk, is this little egg yolk separator. It's just like a wire basket thing. Fat liquoring, what is it? Fat liquoring is a term that refers to basically an oil and water emulsion. So think of this as the problem. Obviously we know oil and water don't mix, right? If you want to get fats into your leather to condition it, basically, well, you can apply the oil to the outside of the leather, and we do that a lot. That's not, a problem. But if you want to get really thorough penetration, then it can really help to make a water and oil emulsion. So basically what an emulsion is it is a way to mix oil and water together. So certain substances are emulsifiers and have that ability to mix with both water and oil, basically. Eggs is a really common one. So it's the egg yolk and the fatty acids in the egg yolk. I'm not totally clear on the science part, but I think it's mostly probably lecithin in eggs that does the trick. But this is basically the same as making mayonnaise, right? So if you make mayonnaise, you put some egg yolks in a blender or in a bowl, and then you whip them as you add a small amount of oil, and you just trickle the oil in. So if you took mayonnaise and you put it into water, it would dissolve into the water. And you could actually do that and use mayonnaise as a fat liquor. So what I'll do with this probably is I'll put these egg yolks in a blender, and as the blender's running, I'll drizzle in some oil. I use olive oil a lot. That forms the emulsion, and then I can mix that in with warm water and soak my hide in it. There are other substances that work to do that. One is brains. Another one is spinal fluid, and those contain, the same thing basically. You can just use straight brains or straight yolks, and those contain oils that are naturally, I think, emulsified. But it's pretty common to use a little bit of oil in addition. Here's some leather. This is the type of leather I would use this on a lot. This is deer skin that I wanted to get really soft for these bellows. So they have, the skin has to be really flexible in order to pump. So this is where I used like a fat liquor. So I think I used brains on this, but probably like a brain and oil emulsion, but egg yolks would be just fine too. This leather, I didn't use a fat liquor on this, and you can to some extent to get some oil into the skin, but mostly I want to saturate this with thick, heavy oils like tallow. So the gal that wrote me recently was doing some sheepskins, and she wasn't getting them all the way soft, and she wanted to know if adding a little bit of oil to her brains or egg yolks would help. It might not, but it certainly isn't going to hurt as long as you don't add too much. So that's really the place that you can go wrong, is just adding too much oil. I would say, I don't really measure things, so I don't have like a recipe or anything, but if I took like this many egg yolks, so it's like 6 or 7 egg yolks, put it in a blender, I would drizzle in, maybe I'm thinking a couple tablespoons of olive oil would be pretty good, and use that for 1 or 2 skins. And then I would add some water to a bucket, warm water, and it can be pretty much hot actually, as long as it doesn't hurt your hand. Like if you can keep your hand in it indefinitely, then it's okay. And then the skins would go into that, and often I will take the skin out after a little while, just a few minutes really. It doesn't take that long to get it well penetrated, but you want to really stretch it and slosh it around too. And then hang that up with all the liquid on it. You don't really have to wring it out. And just let it dry, and then often I'll reheat the mixture and do that one more time. And then as it's drying, I'll still sometimes add a little bit of oil to the surface, like to the grain especially. But yeah, that works pretty good. There's really no reason to overthink it. As long as you don't use too much oil, which can cause just the hide to become too greasy, then you should be okay. I use the technique a lot. I use it anytime I'm making lighter leathers or anything I want to be really soft. And I used to not use it in brain tanning because I felt like it was cheating somehow to add oil and not just use brains. or just egg yolks, but that's just dumb. There's no reason not to try it or add a little bit of extra oil. So these guys are going into the freezer for whenever I need them, and I have lots of jars like this in there whenever I have some old eggs, like if the hens are laying and I find a nest somewhere outside where the hens have been laying for a couple weeks and I didn't know. I'll have like, 30, 40 eggs sometimes, and I'll just put them in jars, freeze them, and use them later. So there's just a quick primer on Fatliquors, and honestly that's like just about all you really need to know about it. And just remember that if you're doing light leathers, tend more towards using light oils, and if you're doing heavy dense leathers like this stuff, which is almost has like a wood-like quality, then tend towards heavy tallow type of oils like goat fat, sheep fat, cow fat, deer fat is excellent, or any of those kind of deer-like animals. Okay, yeah, there you go. Fatliquors.